Hey, what up, YouTube? It's your boy Young Soul, aka Uptown Soul. Real quick video about how fanboys, particularly Xbox fanboys, keep making this argument about, um, buy Xbox, buy American, make it nationalistic or a patriotic argument for why Americans should buy Xbox. And I don't understand this whole argument for the simple fact that unless you're, like the title says, unless you're arguing for all manufacturing of Xbox and Surface and all Microsoft hardware to be manufactured back in the U.S. and bring those jobs back to the U.S., then how can you make a nationalistic or a patriotic argument? It's one thing if all Microsoft hardware were being made in the U.S. with U.S. jobs and the whole nine, then I'd back off and be like, okay, you got an argument. I don't necessarily know if I would be like, okay, you know what I mean? I would necessarily go with that argument, as far as there's a lot of people who, think of themselves as patriotic, but they buy foreign cars or what have you, even though a lot of the domestic cars are being made in America. But back to the Xbox. Okay, so my point is, I keep hearing this a lot. This has been going on for the last couple months that I've heard, if you're an American, you should be buying Xbox because Microsoft is an American company. And it's ridiculous because the manufacturing, Microsoft doesn't even do as much as they can for quote unquote Americans, because they should be taking all those manufacturing jobs and bring them back to America. Those manufacturing jobs, I believe they're in China or in Taiwan or in the Philippines. I'm not exactly sure where, but it's doggone sure not in America where these jobs should be. Okay, if you want to make the patriotic argument, those Xbox manufacturing jobs, and I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Sony doesn't manufacture. Yeah, but nobody is arguing a patriotic, American patriotic argument for PlayStation. All I hear the patriotic thing to do is buy Xbox. Okay, so if you're going to make the patriotic argument, you better advocate for all those manufacturing jobs to be brought back to America too, because that's the real American way to go. That's the real American way to go. You can't split the baby in half and say, oh, no. I'm okay with the manufacturing, cheap labor, manufacturing all in Asia and everything to keep the price of the Xbox One low, but I'm going to advocate pro-USA and patriotic and nationalistic arguments on the other side. And I hear even reasonable Xbox fans make this argument, and yet I never hear them talk about the manufacturing. Bring those jobs back then. If you're gonna push hard for Xbox / patriotism, you're gonna make that argument, you need to start demanding that those jobs be brought back to America. Problem is, those jobs get brought back to America, you realize the Xbox One's going to go from $349.99, at least that's the MSRP, the manufacturer's suggested retail price, even though there are some retail sales for both consoles. The MSRP is $349.99. You bring those jobs back, guarantee that sucker's going up to $599. Maybe at best $499. Okay, without the Connect. Okay, but that's part of the deal with the patriotic argument. You got to deal with all the other consequences. You can't say, oh no, we want it cheap, so make it outside the U.S., but we're going to advocate for Microsoft and Xbox brand being the American brand. You can't have it both ways. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, the Japanese people, they're nationalistic and patriotic, and they don't buy Xbox because it's an American brand. That's hogwash. That's nonsense. It's nonsense, because those same Japanese people buy the hell out of Apple iPhones. They buy the hell out of Apple iPads. And that's under the same exact argument that you guys have been making about Microsoft. It's made I mean, it's manufactured in the exact same places the Xbox and PlayStations are manufactured, but the headquarters of Apple, as we all know, is in America. So in California. So therefore, that's a American brand that Japanese people love. That's a quote unquote. Let me put the quotes on there. Quote unquote American brand for the same reason Microsoft is. Their headquarters are here, even though they're manufactured outside the U.S. But the Japanese people love Apple, so it's not that they don't like American. They just don't like the Xbox because they don't like the games that are on the Xbox. And it seems like those particular fanboys of that console seem to not, seem to believe that everybody should like the same things they like. Japanese people, they like our games. They just refuse to buy the console because it's American. No, they just don't like the games. Okay? Like I said with Apple, they're more than willing to buy American products if they like them. Apple is, by that fanboy definition, because their headquarters is in America, is in a quote-unquote American company that Japanese have no problem buying from. Okay? It's just they don't like the Xbox games. I happen to be in that camp. I'm not really into racers and I'm not really into shooters. So that's what's on the Xbox One right now. Now, again, I'll repeat again, this is like the third video where I've said this. I'll get an Xbox One when Crackdown, Scalebound, Quantum Break, Rise of the Tomb Raider are all out. When those games are all available at one time, I can go buy an Xbox. Right now, I'm not into the games that they have out there. And most of the Japanese people are not into those games either. Now, they're not bad games. I'm not here to argue about whether the games are good or bad. They just aren't. So I know I'm going off on a tangent here. It's supposed to be about quote-unquote patriotism and nationalism. But, next time you hear Xbox fans and or fanboys talking about buy American, buy Xbox because it's an American company, next time you do that, ask them, are they pushing for a higher price of the Xbox console in order to bring manufacturing jobs back to America? Because that's the American thing to do. Bring them jobs back. Americans are aching for jobs. If there's a couple hundred jobs that can be brought back, a couple thousand jobs that can be brought back, whatever the case may be, we should be doing it for America, right? So, I mean, you're going to make the American argument, go all the way or don't make it at all. All right, I want to know what y'all think. Leave your comments in the section below, and just an opinion piece. But all right, peace out.